Job chapters 26 to 31 through the Bible. Part 5. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judgment was as a robe and a diadem. Job 29 verse 14. Job was adorned with good works, and people came to him for advice. I was eyes to the blind, and feet was eye to the lame. Job 29 verse 15. He was chairman of the board at the blind school, and he was a benefactor of the crippled children's home. My friend, this man Job was outstanding. How we need citizens like this. I was a father to the poor, and the cause which I knew not, I searched out. Job 29 verse 16. He made a thorough investigation before he gave to a cause. This is something which many believers do not do today. Job supported only that which he knew to be a worthy cause. And I brake the jaws of the wicked, and plucked the spoil out of his teeth. Job 29 verse 17. He believed in civic righteousness and law and order. He was influential enough to bring it to pass. What a man he was! Then I said, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. My root was spread out by the waters, and the dew lay all night upon my branch. My glory was fresh in me, and my bow was renewed in my hand. Job 29 verse 18 to 20. Job said to himself, I've got it made. I have everything I want for retirement. I'm going to die in my nest. I'll multiply my days as the sand and live to a ripe old age. I tell you, he thought he had everything. He had a wonderful family. He had good health. One can't think of anything that Job did not have. Unto me men gave ear, and waited, and kept silence at my counsel. After my words they spake not again, and my speech dropped upon them. And they waited for me as for the rain, and they opened their mouth wide as for the latter rain. Job 29 verse 21 to 23. All the group sought out his advice. Before they would make a decision, they would contact Job and ask his advice. The governor of the state and the Supreme Court would talk things over with Job before they made a decision. I tell you, he was an outstanding man of great influence. They would hang on every word that Job said. If I laughed on them, they believed it not, and the light of my countenance they cast not down. I chose out their way, and sat chief, and dwelt as a king in the army, as one that comforteth the mourners. Job 29 verse 24 and 25. Job sat at the very top of the totem pole of life. He dwelt in honor, affluence, and influence. He was a plutocrat and a tycoon. He was an ideal man, the goal toward which humanity is striving today. He lived the good life. He knew what abundant living really was. But Job lived in a fool's paradise. He was in a Cinderella world, and when the clock struck midnight, his chariot turned into a pumpkin. Remember what he said in chapter 3. For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come unto me. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came. Job 3 verse 25 and 26. The bomb fell on his nest. He had dreaded something like this. He had feared that all of this material substance could be wiped out and taken from him in a moment, and it was. He had nothing to fall back on. Even his friends didn't cushion his fall. In fact, they made him fall with a terrible, resounding crash. Job has been putting on his self-righteousness. Listen to him again in verse 14. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judgment was as a robe and a diadem. 52 times he has used I and me. We hear no confession, no admission of failure. We see nothing of a broken and contrite spirit in Job. Chapter 30 continues his description of his present wretchedness and suffering. But now they that are younger than I, have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained, to have set with the dogs of my flock. Job 30 verse 1. I have told you how it used to be, but now these young scoundrels come around and throw rocks at me. They have no use for me. Let me tell you about the fathers of these kids. I wouldn't even have hired them to watch over my flock. Yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished? For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time desolate and waste. Job 30 verse 2 and 3. He goes on to deride these scoundrels who now have no use for him. And now am I their song, yea, I am their byword. They abhor me, they flee far from me, and spare not to spit in my face. Job 30 verse 9 and 10. They are making up dirty little ditties about Job, and they ridicule him in song. He knew what it was to be the object of derision led by young hoodlums. I don't know about you, but I am tired of listening to Job. First, he was boasting about the outstanding man he had been. Now he is courting sympathy. I was such a great fellow, and now look at me. And who is to blame for this, my friend? Why, God is to blame. There are a lot of Christians in that same position today. It is possible to be blaming God, but to do it in a very pious way. I had all those blessings. I was so active. I did kind things for people. But look at me now. Well, whatever it is that has happened, it is because God is good, never because God is not good. Whatever happens is because God is working out something beneficial in the life of a believer. Job finally says, My harp also is turned to mourning, and my organ into the voice of them that weep. Job 30 verse 31. His singing voice is the harp. All he can sing now is the desert blues. The organ is his speaking voice, and he says all it can do is weep. He has a tear in his voice all the time. That is his condition now. He is asking for sympathy, and certainly is a man to be pitied. However, you will notice that there still is no brokenness of spirit. God has been put at a great disadvantage in this man's life. He is a proud man. He justifies himself instead of justifying God. In fact, he blames God. What is the problem of Job? It is pride. It is the same thing that caused Satan to fall. It was the sin in the Garden of Eden. It is that awful thing that eats like a cancer into the human heart. That awful sin of pride is there in the hearts and lives of all of us.